Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Along with her trusted partners, Diane provides complete service for your real estate transaction and brings us guests who provide useful information on industry-related topics and trends. And now, Missoula Real Estate Today on News Talk, KGVO. Hi, thank you so much for being a part of Missoula Real Estate Today this weekend. We always appreciate that. We appreciate Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate lining up great guests for us. All right, homeowners, you've got heating, you've got cooling, you've got plumbing, right? This is a good show for all of you. Devin Leader. Devin is the residential comfort consultant for Garden City Plumbing and Heating. Welcome to the show, Devin.
Yeah, thanks for having me in today, Denny.
Give me a little of your background. We always like to start with the get acquainted. What your duties are, what led you to Garden City Plumbing and Heating, how long you've been with them, and all of those things.
Sure, yeah. So I'm one of those rare people who I grew up in this industry. And, from the time I was a kid, I was in heating and air conditioning.
Wow.
And so
family-owned business, or you just...
Yeah. My parents owned a company, and I started working and cutting my teeth in new construction around Missoula and worked my way from the ground up. And so I just loved it and stuck with it. And so I've been now with Garden City since 2013.
Okay. All right. So you put in about 8 years with them so far. Yeah. What do you like about it? Not just Garden City Plumbing and Heating, but what do you like about the industry that you're a pretty young guy, but you've put a lot of years in already, it sounds like.
Yeah, I really am passionate about helping people feel more comfortable in their homes and unlocking things to make it where their home really feels like home for them. And on a day-to-day basis, I love the challenge of working within the confines of a big three-dimensional puzzle to try to solve comfort issues and just those common nagging things. Sometimes requires a lot of creativity and innovation, and I really enjoy that.
And a little of the background, Garden City Plumbing and Heating, a well-established business in Missoula. By now, you've probably had a pretty good taste of the family-owned history of that, right?
Yeah, Garden City really is a family business. Bill Schaaf started Garden City back in 1985, okay. And he's still an integral part of the company today, but it's a multi-generational business, so I work, side by side with Bill's kids as well. And Kyle, his son, I call him Boss Junior, the future plan to take over at some point.
Right. You are, of course, required to be in so many homes and offices. We're still a ways away from that being comfortable for a lot of people. We're still a ways away from a lot of people going back to work rather than work from home, and maybe they never will, but What do you do to try to make sure customers are comfortable when you come to the house?
Yeah, Denny, that's such a great question. It's one that really requires a lot of creativity and innovation on our end as well. So one of the huge credits I actually have to give for that is our customers. Clear communication with them is a huge and important part, but we've really been blessed by customers who care about our community too. And so having things like people going on quarantine and having to adjust dynamically and sometimes change the schedule 10 minutes before we're supposed to be somewhere makes for a really collaborative process. But really, each day begins before anybody shows up for work. We do have a number of safety protocols in place. Mm-hmm. So every day, every employee in our company gets a text message that prompts them to go on and do a clearance check where we go through and are screened for work that day.
Can you talk a little bit about what's involved in that?
Yeah. So
didn't mean to interrupt you there, but you can continue from that point. But I'm just curious what's on there.
Yeah, one of those things where I love how technology has changed during the pandemic, where now we do have we get a text message. Mine shows up at 6:45 every morning, and click that message, and it pops me right over to a digital survey where I go through and I note things like my temperature and, check and verify that I don't have certain symptoms and that I'm healthy and clear for work that day. And everybody in our company gets that. And if you have any negative answers on that screening test, then you're asked to hold off from work and talk to a supervisor before you begin.
Yeah, it probably didn't. I imagine maybe it took a little buy-in for all your employees to do that. It was unavoidable. It's it was not an option. But hopefully you had a good understanding crew that got on board with that right away. Not too many complications there.
Yeah, as far as that, I think our team as a whole really likes to work together, and I think everybody that works at Garden City is so caring about our community and the people in it and our customers. And so it really didn't take a lot of convincing or coercion to do that. It's something where we said, this just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest, Devin Leader. Devin is a residential comfort consultant with Garden City Plumbing and Heating here in Missoula, a long-time Missoula business. So, Devin, as the season starts to change, what are some of the main service calls you're having to address more frequently right now?
Oh, man, that's a lot of fun to talk about. Those are things that you don't always think that could go awry in a heating and cooling system or even with plumbing. There's some really interesting stuff that you find. But one that I think most people don't consider is the impact of things like critters on systems. So especially as we start to get into spring and things like wasps start coming out like crazy, they love to find all kinds of places to hide. They're like little opportunistic ninjas. And so they end up in all kinds of pipes and connections and things, and you could see a little beetle that takes out an entire heating system. So those are always interesting things we run into. I also find, things where, with spring runoff and things change, we get a lot of calls about the quality of water, particularly in rural areas. And so fielding calls like that where sometimes people's water just starts bubbling more than it used to or being a different color than it was and concerns that pop up and arise from plumbing-related issues there.
What do you have when you get a call like that? Because that sounds a little bit scary. That's a little unsettling when your water is orange and bubbling. I don't know, but what kind of solutions can you offer to something like that?
Sure. Yeah. In certain cases, it could be just improved filtration, and in some cases, it can be rusting pipes or things like that need to be replaced and addressed. So while the problems can be really vast and different, sometimes the solutions are just as diverse.
Okay. Well, tips and advice, let's continue with that. This could be a multi-part answer. I don't know. Maybe this is the last question I'll ask. You might be able to do 20 minutes on this one, Devin, and feel free to do so if you need to. But what are some of the common mistakes you see that maybe could help customers have more efficient running systems prior to having to give Garden City Plumbing and Heating a call? And maybe we can do that category by category. I don't know. Might as well start with furnaces. Folks are going to be using those a little less for the next few months, but they're still going to be in use. So what are some common furnace mistakes?
Sure. Yeah, I wish that's something that people would ask first thing they call is, what can I do before you send a technician out? And a lot of times it begins with the really simple everyday IT solution. Did you try turning it off and turning it back on again? I can't tell you how many times that has fixed a system and could have saved a service call. Other prominent things are filter replacements. Those are so important in a system. When we look at the furnace, you really think of it as the heart of the home. And your duct system is like the arteries and veins traveling through. And that filter is the one thing that's protecting you from a heart attack. If that gets clogged and dirty, that can do all kinds of damage to a furnace and shut it down completely. And so I'm always surprised at the number of folks that when I ask, hey, when's the last time you changed their filter? That common answer that I hear back is, oh, I have a filter? Usually we know where to look then.
Well, that answers your question. The answer is never.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think a lot of the hardware store filter brands out there will advertise and say, lasts up to 3 months. And I find that in most cases, that's not true in a real Montana home. And so typically when you're running that system, they get dirty, and I would advise those 1-inch filters, you check those every month to see how they look. And most homes, that's about the time to change it. Yeah.
Is that predicated on, say, number of hours that a furnace's heating system has run, say, over the course of a month? I don't even know what that would be. I guess in January or February, it's probably well over a few hundred hours a month. But is that kind of a rule of thumb you could apply as well?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that play into that, and like a lot of things, your mileage may vary.
Right.
So when it comes to the use of that, a lot of folks love to use their fans to continually circulate air through the house.
Yeah.
Because not only does that help collect more dust and improve the quality of the air that they're breathing in their home, but it also can help balance out temperatures and improve comfort by giving a more even, consistent temperature.
Yeah.
So in homes like that, the filters would need to be replaced more frequently. And yeah, in the deep winter, when that furnace is just always running, a clean filter is really important. And
in a part of the country like Montana, they don't get used as much. But what about air conditioning systems? What are some of the things that you see there that, this became a problem that maybe it shouldn't have been a problem?
Yeah, the big thing when it comes to any mechanical system is maintenance. Just like going in and you get your teeth cleaned periodically by the dentist, and if you skip it over time, you start to find this little issue that could have been fixed with a simple cleaning ends up becoming a cataclysmic problem, and you get a root canal. So the same thing is true of furnaces and air conditioners. That regular maintenance that gets skipped periodically is a huge problem as it accumulates over time. I saw a study a little bit ago that really surprised me. It said that a 32nd inch of dust on a blower motor reduced its efficiency by 10%.
Gee.
And when you think about that, you can't even measure that on a ruler.
No.
So the importance of getting in there and cleaning that system, making sure that it's running right to prevent premature wear and tear can actually save you a tremendous amount of money on a monthly basis, but also on future repair bills.
Yeah. It's almost one of those things where you should just probably pencil in some kind of a preseason, tune-up, check, at least a checkup if nothing else.
Absolutely. Yeah, all the major manufacturers, the EPA, even Northwestern Energy, advises that you have an annual tune-up on your equipment. So we do offer pre-planned maintenance agreements where we can put you on a program and have you on a regular schedule. Because if you're anything like me, if you leave it up to your memory, then 1 year becomes 5 years real quick.
Well, yeah, no kidding. Well, plumbing covers so many things, the faucets leaking, the toilets, just so many different things. But things that you see there that maybe ounces of prevention could have helped in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. A simple thing that often gets overlooked is drain cleaning. A lot of times that goes years without being done, and you end up with major clogs and problems that turn into things like insurance claims when things start backing up, and it's a really, really bad situation. So having someone come in and just scope out your piping system, check everything out, make sure it's clear, and that when the toilet flushes, it flushes fast. Those sorts of things can go a long way.
You guys, of course, you're very busy all the time, and you're in big demand. But really talented plumbers, that you get one of those on staff, that's like gold, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I am thrilled with the team that we do have to work with. And
nice.
One thing I'm really proud of is that we do train a lot. We have a lot of homegrown employees and technicians that have been with us for a long time. And one thing I love about Garden City is that on a regular basis, there are actually some awards that we win from certain manufacturers for just the sheer amount of training that we participate in to make sure that our people are knowledgeable and can help.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. And our guest is Devin Leader, Devin's residential comfort consultant with Garden City Plumbing and Heating. And I also want to say thanks to some of Diane's marketing partners that help bring you Missoula Real Estate Today every weekend on News Talk KGVO. Rob Fleming from Mann Mortgage, Miles Link of Opportunity Bank of Montana, along with Carol Blodgett from MakeItMissoula.com. Back to Devin Leader with Garden City Plumbing and Heating. What about trends, Devin? Are you finding more customers more often asking for, specific technology features you might not have even had to, access to a number of years ago?
Yeah, that's one thing I love about our industry is that people don't think of us as a technology industry, but really that's something that is developing incredibly rapidly in the heating and cooling industry. So when we look at, connected home solutions, it's gone to a whole new level now.
Yeah.
One thing that we've had a lot of clients asking for that I love are actually systems capable of remote diagnostics. So now, especially right now, when you have people in their homes who might be hesitant about having a technician in their home,
right? Yeah,
we have the ability to connect with your permission to your furnace or your air conditioning system and look live at the system and check everything out as though we had a technician kneeling in front of the furnace. And so in a lot of cases, we've been able to remotely diagnose a problem, possibly make some fine-tune adjustments to prevent having to send somebody in your home altogether, or even just identify and say, hey, you know what, we can see that there's something going on with this part of your furnace. We're going to have our technician knock on the door, holding that part in hand, ready to go and confirm that that's what needs to be addressed.
Wow.
So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Another aspect of our industry that has grown exponentially are the ductless mini-split systems.
Mm-hmm.
Those, I always think back to 10 years ago, I had to convince people that they were real and that they actually... and people
were real.
Yeah, people thought this is too good to be true.
Yeah,
and
you got the unicorn there. They're selling me a unicorn at Garden City.
Exactly.
Wow.
And but really now they're actually the most requested HVAC system that we put in anymore. And I don't know if are you familiar with what we call frog rooms?
No.
It's that finished room over the garage, frog room.
Finished room over garage. I like that. Yeah. That's a good acronym.
And, yeah, especially now, a lot of folks have been converting those to home offices or to the classroom for the kids. And that room is often far more uncomfortable than any place else in the house. And so, the ability for us to take and say, hey, we're going to put this on its own system because it's such a unique heating and cooling characteristic. And you're going to be spending 80% of your day in that room and not the rest of the house. So we can treat that as unique. We can make it the most comfortable place and do it in an energy efficient and unintrusive manner. Has been really an incredible gift.
Yeah. What about brand names? That's probably more something that's scrutinized on your end because you're not about to carry brands that you're not satisfied with or proud to sell. But do you see that at all on the customer end? Maybe from an ad they heard or something they read about, any specific brand names that customers seem curious about?
Yeah, there are a couple that are really prominent. On the ductless side that we were talking about before, Mitsubishi is a very common manufacturer. They're incredibly innovative and really push the envelope all the time. And because of that, they've developed a reputation as being the leader in the industry.
Okay.
As a result, that is, I would say, by far the most commonly requested brand that I hear when somebody calls in or shoots us an email. So that's something that I love partnering with them and the quality that we can offer, as well as the fine-tuned ways that we can approach a house with their systems.
Okay, Mitsubishi, good. What about some other brand names that you are proud to carry at Garden City Plumbing and Heating?
Yeah, we've also been a partner with Lennox for a very long time.
Very famous.
Yes, yeah.
Man.
Well known for Dave Lennox with the cap and the rag.
Right.
And yeah, Lennox has been really just a phenomenal partner to us. And one thing I really believe as a local company is that the company that partners with you really matters. And in the case of Lennox, the support system that they have and the care that they have for the customer using their product is phenomenal. And so I find day in and day out, if I need something, that if I go to them asking for help and supporting and caring for my clients, they're right there alongside and even willing to come and visit on site if they need to.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate on News Talk KGVO. And our guest, Devin Leader, residential comfort consultant with Garden City Plumbing and Heating, a long-time, well-established business here in Missoula. Has it been a challenge to keep up not only with all the residential business you do? I mean, you got so many customers. I'm sure you're in big demand for new construction right now with as much of that as going on in Missoula, a lot of apartment complexes, among other things.
Yeah, the Missoula population has just been exploding, and as such, so has the building industry. So not only do we have residential, as you said, multifamily housing going up, but there's a lot happening with just booming commercial businesses and local companies that are continuing to grow, which is just such an exciting thing to be a part of. But yeah, it's we run hard to keep up with it. That's for sure.
Knowing that you were going to be on this week's show, Missoula Real Estate Today, I guess it was kind of top of mind, but I'm driving around and I drive past an apartment complex being built, and there's a Garden City plumbing and heating van and banner, and then I drive, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Yeah, so you're to your point, they're keeping you busy.
Absolutely, yeah.
There seems to be a lot of cleaner indoor air products being offered. Are you seeing a lot of that, and what services are you offering to meet those demands, and what are you looking for in those products to, you want to make sure that you feel good about selling it? Kind of goes back to the name brands you carry, but those particular types of products, I think you'd agree, you're seeing a lot more of those these days. And you want to make sure that you're not, that one of them isn't a scam or you're selling snake oil.
Absolutely. One thing you'll find about me is that I'm a little bit of a nerd, and I love to test things out in my own home first.
Okay.
I love seeing hard data and real results.
Okay.
And so I do use my own home as a testing ground for a lot of things. And we have a lot of unique tools that we can use in the home to actually measure indoor air quality. So there are some products that I've put in my home, and I've run long-term tests on before and after comparisons and seen phenomenal results. And I left them in. I said, I'm keeping this. This is good for my family. And then began to offer those to my clients afterward. And then I have others where I put them in and went, we didn't see any difference at all. And this manufacturer wants us to offer a $1,000 product, and I'm not seeing any change. And I'll filter those out and say, nope, we want to make sure we're offering something that genuinely impacts people's lives.
Wow, interesting. Getting back to heating a little bit, Deb, I know we're moving into springtime and warmer months, but yeah, you can repair, you can replace the furnace. A lot more to it than that in terms of other services and products that you can offer along those lines?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll touch on a couple of those
Please
indoor
do.
air quality products.
Absolutely.
So
that makes it sound like I knew what I was doing there.
Absolutely.
On that line of questioning, didn't it?
But yeah, so some of the really exciting things that have either come on the market recently or that we've seen change. One is just really enhanced filtration systems where it's no longer just a filter. There is a technology we commonly call PCO, or photocatalytic oxidation. And with those systems, now not only are we capturing things in your filter, but we're actually cleaning and breaking down bioaerosols in the system. So as air in your home is passing through, we're able to break down things like ozone, as well as chemical compounds that could lead to odors or just poor quality air that can impact your lungs and cause irritation.
Okay.
So even the ability to kill viruses, which is extremely important right now. So those things are huge and have shown a tremendous impact on indoor air quality that people are breathing. The other side of it, the V in HVAC, is ventilation. And that is one thing that I have seen severely neglected even in our current building codes. And so I think to here recently, I went to a home that was just about a year old, and you walked into the home, and the air just felt heavy, and it almost felt like you were just swimming in chemical soup. Everything that was being off-gassing from that new home smell, it almost just stuck to you. And so the homeowners were reporting that their home always felt stuffy.
Yeah.
And you always think a brand new home should be just perfect, and it wasn't. And so we went in, and I did some of that indoor air quality testing, and we had hard data to show that, actually the chemical levels in the house are unhealthy and extremely high. So we were able to go in and put in what's called a heat recovery ventilator, or HRV, and that allowed us to, in an energy-efficient manner, introduce fresh air into the home and exhaust some of that stale, polluted air from the house. And in the process, that freshened the air for the whole home. And checking back in with them very shortly thereafter, they said, it's like breathing for the first time in this place.
Oh, man. That's a good success story. I might ask you about another one here, too, if time allows. But, Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate on News Talk KGVO. And our guest is Devin Leader. Devin is a residential comfort consultant with Garden City Plumbing and Heating here in Missoula. And you get to brag on your team now, Devin. What makes Garden City Plumbing and Heating the best choice when you need a plumber or any kind of services? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think the family atmosphere that we have at Garden City really makes for employees who stick around. And we have such quality people. I think if there's any resource that we have at Garden City that I could point to that we have in spades, it's quality people.
Nice.
I love that just actually a couple of weeks ago, we had Dan who celebrated 31 years with Garden City. And I'd love to say that that's a unique thing, but we actually have so many employees that have been around for decades.
Yeah.
And they're continually moving along with the new processes, with the new technology, and staying up on things to a point where, I really believe we have some of the most knowledgeable and skilled people around. That
is excellent. I always ask, you brought up one I think is a great example, but I always like to ask about success stories. Any job or service that you've been involved in recently that made you especially proud to be associated with Garden City Plumbing and Heating?
Yeah, I actually think too, I was talking before about having to convince people about those mini split systems being real.
Yeah.
And I have a client who I just went back to visit here recently, and he was one of those people who we talked about trying to make an area of his home more comfortable. And when his system was first installed, when his home was built, it was terrible. And the way things ran, there was not a single room in the house that was comfortable. And we went in and we used a multifaceted solution with some ductless heat pumps and made a couple areas in the basement. Everybody's basement's always cold, right?
Sure, yeah.
Well, we made his basement the most comfortable area in his house. And so here we are 5 years later, and he said, you know what, I actually want the rest of my house to feel as good as my basement does. And so now we're actually going through and we're replacing his existing system and heating and cooling the entire home with ductless so that he can fine-tune his house to exactly how his family lives in it.
Excellent. Plumbing, HVAC companies, you're in such huge demand, very busy. How do you prioritize your customers' needs in a business where, every customer's, they'd like to see you 10 minutes ago. Devin, how do you manage customer expectations?
Yeah, that is true for sure. I know that for a lot of people, when they think about purchasing their furnace or air conditioner, initially it's not very exciting. But once you do make that purchase and you think about what life could look like at home, that totally changes. And now they're excited. They're ready for you yesterday.
Right.
But especially when we have so many emergency situations, especially in the wintertime, if somebody's furnace goes out, it's dead, and they have no heat and it's 20 below, that's a real genuine emergency. Sure. So we do try to keep things where we can be as dynamic with the schedule as possible to fit those genuine emergencies in. And again, I also want to credit our customers on that too, where when we have those people planning to replace and do things that they've wanted to do, who are willing to check in and say, hey, you know what, we have this home with a real emergency and they need help. Do you mind waiting a little bit so that we can get in there and get this taken care of? And I find that kind of communication, again, the people of Missoula are so caring for their neighbors that it really does make an impact.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest has been Devin Leader, residential comfort consultant with Garden City Plumbing and Heating. You have done an outstanding job. If folks want to get a hold of Garden City for anything, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so you can, of course, give us a call at 728-5550. Or also, if you go to our website, gardencityplumbing.com, there's some ways you can pop right through and get to us instantly.
Let's have you back on again sometime soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Email dianebeck@windermere.com. Or, for a complete directory of Diane's listings, visit movetomissoula.com. That's move2Missoula.com. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.